Guys, real quick before we dive into the Target talk, there is some news that I'm seeing coming across the board here in regards to Amazon, and that they may be eyeing an acquisition of JCPenney. Of course, JCPenney, we know, has been going through some struggles in recent years, and it's really escalated in the last couple months here. I'm going to give it to you, Andy, and of course, if you don't have any comments, that's perfectly fine, as I'm kind of throwing you a curveball. But I love your perspective on this stuff. Why would Amazon be interested in a company like JCPenney?
If I had to guess just off the cuff without researching it at all, I would say distribution centers. I would say that JCPenney's stores are in the places that Amazon would like, probably for people to be able to go pick up items, return items, and that sort of thing. I think that, is it Kohl's that they have that deal with, where customers can bring things back? I think that's been fairly successful for Amazon, maybe not so much for Kohl's, but I think if I'm Amazon, I might be looking at this the same way they looked at Whole Foods in terms of where are these stores, how close are they to the bulk of our customers, and how do we turn that into same-day fulfillment centers. That's a guess.
Yeah, and we'll have to see here. This is still developing here, and I guess as I'm reading further, it apparently, Kevin and Andy, has to do with they're eager to expand apparel business as well. So, maybe interested in some of that branding on that side. We'll see. Apparently there's a team in Plano. These are all reports from, let me get the source here as well, WWD's David Moyne reporting this. So, hey, developing story, interesting if true, but I think there's other stuff in this market. Obviously, Amazon up sizably today, though. Guys, I'm not sure if it's tied to this or not, at $50, over 2%. But Andy, I want to talk some Target. That's what we got you here for, and I think that's where things get really interesting, is these big box retailers. Walmart, of course, just announcing its earnings release, strong quarter. But the main question here is, of course, what your data is showing and how strong it really is. We know these companies have performed well. And then the other question I'd have for you, Andy, is this organic sustainable growth, or is this just growth borrowed from the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think first and foremost, we like to look at the LikeFolio consumer demand data, where we are tracking people talking about shopping at Target, whether that's online, delivery, or actually in the store. And when we look at that, the mentions are unbelievable. The growth is unbelievable for this quarter that they're about to talk about, and for the current quarter that they're in. And so we do see massive growth. Like Walmart showed today, both of these companies doing extremely strong here, and the expectations are very, very high. Walmart put together an awesome quarter, but the stock has ended up pretty flat on the day, maybe even getting red at some points, because expectations were so high going into that. I think that's something that Target will have to deal with, Target shareholders, on this report. So I think all signs point to this is going to be a really, really nice report, but expectations are also very high, which makes it tough for the stock to move considerably higher afterwards. And in terms of, are they just borrowing from the future? I think that really comes down to kind of two things. I don't think that necessarily they're borrowing from the future as much as they are, grabbing some market share, at least temporarily, from the lockdown or shutdown of many of their local competitors, which is an interesting topic in itself. But Target's doing a really good job of that in terms of attracting people to the store. Now, whether or not people are having a really great experience that's going to continue once that competition kind of opens back up, and once people are allowed to go back out and eat and don't need groceries delivered all the time, that's the question that I think we'll have to wait and see as things start to open up across the country. Does Target maintain these levels, and is consumer happiness high enough to expect that this is a real permanent shift in consumer behavior? Right now, too early to tell.
Andy, this is a fun conversation to have today, because you know what we're talking about today? Winners. We're talking about the companies that are winning in this new economy. And I remember It wasn't very long ago, 12, 18 months, where Target was universally roasted for investing so much money in the stores and remaking their stores and investing in e-commerce and revamping all their stores to get ready for what they perceived the new economy to be. And sure enough, the new economy came right at them. And now they find themselves set up to be one of the major winners in this. But the question is, really, once we see Walmart's numbers, are they gaining on Walmart, or is Walmart pulling away? And do you guys have any comparisons to Target versus Walmart? Because, you know, the list of winners in this new economy is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but the ones that are on that list are doing extremely well.
Yeah, it's when we look at Walmart and Target, we actually see very similar types of growth. I don't think that there's one necessarily taking market share from the other. They're both just kind of taking market share from the entire local economy at this point. It's tough to call which one's getting more of that. I think both are capturing that consumer really well. I think that both are delivering on expectations fairly well. The one thing I'll kind of caveat with Target, looked right before we came on in terms of Target's online grocery mentions. We've actually seen those, you know, the first 2 or 3 weeks of lockdowns and shutdowns, we saw those really spike to unbelievably high levels as consumers looked for an alternative to going to the grocery store or otherwise. And since then, we've actually seen that kind of decline almost back to the baseline where it was in early March or February. And so I think that there's a combination of the novelty has worn off and people aren't talking about it as much. But also, I think that people have figured out a lot of different avenues for getting things done that weren't there in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And so while I do think Target is benefiting from online grocery shopping, I don't think that it's sticking quite as well as probably the company would like in terms of that permanent consumer behavior. I don't see a lot of people shifting to online Target grocery as their primary source of groceries at this point.
So, Andy, is that the question then for these companies? Is how many of these, you know, kind of opportunistic consumers that they've captured as a result of store closures and limited access to groceries and goods during the stay-at-home order that they're able to keep and go and, you know, going forward as returning customers? And how many of them are kind of just here because it's the only option?
Yeah, that's a big part of it, but I will say it's still very good for Target and for Walmart to get these customers because now they can contact them. They've either downloaded the app and started ordering, or they've put in an email address or phone number to confirm the delivery or a physical address. And so now Target and Walmart know who their customers are more than ever and can market to them directly. So they kind of get the best of both worlds in that sense. They can, have a physical store that people can come to, but they can also reach out to those customers and do promotions and things like that. So that's been a boon for, I think, both companies and will continue to be into the future. So, kind of summarize my overall take, I think Target's doing really, really, really well and is executing on this opportunity very well. But everyone expects that. And the stock market already expects that. So that makes it tough going into earnings. But I think long term, this is a winner that's going to stay winning for quite a while.
Yeah, and Kevin, I think that is where it gets interesting. That's maybe where the biggest divergence between Walmart and Target actually occurs is largely with the stock prices and how they got to where they are. Kevin, Target was a huge winner in 2019 and actually kind of started the year lagging a little bit, escalated further as a result of this pandemic and took a little bit longer to get wind under its sails on its comeback. But we're pretty darn close to where we were before this all happened and those highs that we saw at the end of 2019. Walmart kind of steady as she goes and actually is hitting new highs, but didn't see the same amount of growth maybe last year as Target did. So that's where, you kind of put that with what Andy's saying, how much of that strength that's expected is already priced in, and, how much room is there maybe to the upside?
Guys, you look at these charts and Home Depot and Lowe's, Walmart, Target, I kind of get the sense of a similar relationship between these companies. And here's the good news. All of them are doing extremely well in this new economy. So, do I think that Target's going to put up identical numbers to Walmart? No, I don't. I think it'll be somewhere smaller, but Target's not as big as Walmart. They don't have the same footprint as Walmart, but they're similar, and they're still a winner. They're going to do very well. So I think this is going to be a similar discussion that we're having tomorrow that we had today with Walmart. Target will put up record, probably historic numbers. Are they as good as Walmart? Probably not, but they'll still be more than effective enough to move this stock. So, like I said, we do this show every day, and every day the last 90 days we've been talking about winners and losers. Target is clearly one of the winners, guys.
Yeah, and we're seeing that again here today as it's up about 0.25% ahead of earnings. But Andy, we got to leave it there. Thanks as always for joining us, Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio.com.